and start recording. Little things.
Our session's an hour, so we figured 30 minutes. 30 minutes
Yeah,
for
30 to
questions?
40, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know how much, I think Andrew's going to introduce us, I think.
I think so.
At least that was the last thing I heard, but I don't know if that's true. All right, so what I was thinking is, this is going to be annoying, but it'll be all right, I guess. Living room papers.
Yeah, but if we get it closer, it might hop over. How many degrees does it take?
A few.
Yep.
Yeah, good. So what I was kind of thinking is I would start, and of course I would do my own introduction, and then you do your own introduction. And then I would take care of the first part where we're talking about pretty much so everything up to the full kickoff.
Yep.
So that would be, and of course you can chime in at any point if you want to.
Right.
So I would take through the pilot and the survey
And the usage.
and the usage, and then this is where I'm figuring we do the break,
Mhm.
and we'll switch over. And so I would talk about the usage and then say something that would transition us into
Yep.
you.
Yep.
And then you would have
Or,
those things.
yeah.
So you'd have quite a few slides to get through. And so that's kind of where I was thinking we would do the
That's
hard break.
exactly- Yep, and that's what we had talked about, so
Okay.
that's perfect.
All right. So
And they did
I-
sign off on our logo.
They did?
They
Okay,
were
good.
very happy that we were willing to work with them,
Yeah, well,
so
whatever, works with me.
it's branded.
Yeah, so we'll be we've got an hour, right? And
Mhm.
we're gonna talk to them about the things that we're gonna do. Now, do we want to invite them to stop us along the way, or do we want to?
I think, yeah, I
Okay.
mean,
I'm fine with that, that's typically how I do things, but,
exactly. Because some of the stuff that's important to us, maybe they're maybe like, all right,
yeah.
usage isn't important to us, we want to know how you got them to do it. So,
Okay.
whatever.
All right, so we're ready to go then?
Now, if you want, one of the things that Andrew said was that we could put our learning outcomes on here. And so I kind of did this generic, but if we want, we could indicate, okay, we're going to touch on the following things. So if there's an area, stop us along the way.
Okay, well, let's see just how it happens naturally today,
Yeah.
and
Okay,
then if we want to add some stuff that we can.
okay,
In fact, when I was looking through this earlier this morning, I think I found a small typo, so we want to make sure we
Okay.
catch any of that kind of stuff.
good deal.
All right. So are we ready?
We're ready.
All right, well, welcome everybody, and thanks for attending our session. Our session is titled Managing Change When Change is Feared, Rebooting a Digital Measures Implementation. And we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about pretty much so rebooting a digital measures implementation that was pretty much so dormant for about 5 years. And so we'll talk a lot about those particular issues. I'm Dr. Doug Masterson. I'm the Senior Associate Provost for Institutional Effectiveness at the University of Southern Mississippi. I've been in this role as Senior Associate Provost now for 2 years, and I've been at the university for 15 years. I come from a profession of chemistry and biochemistry, so I've been a professor at the university for since 2004. And I came into my role as Associate Provost after having spent 2 years as Associate Dean in the College of Science and Technology. And so I enjoy working with faculty and administrators trying to find solutions to the various problems that we have on campus. and I'm passionate about finding efficiencies that actually value faculty time. And I think you're going to find valuing faculty time is a theme of this particular presentation.
And I'm Allison Gillespie, and I've been at the university for 6 years, starting my 7th. So if I was a faculty member, hopefully I would have been tenured. I've been in higher education for almost 30 years, working in a variety of areas. And at the University of Southern Mississippi, I work with faculty hiring and different strategic initiatives, and also specifically with digital measures, working on the workflow implementation.
All right, so for today, we've got basically 2 learning outcomes that we want everybody in the room to kind of leave with. We want you to understand some techniques and strategies that we use to reboot digital measures at our institution that we think are transferable to any institution across the country. And 2, we want you to leave with some strategies on how to obtain faculty buy-in to increase faculty usage. Digital measures is a tool that is faculty-centric, and if we don't have faculty buy-in, we're not going to get that rich data that we're so hoping to get from a tool like digital measures. So let me just provide you a little bit of brief context and history on our journey through getting digital measures fully implemented at the University of Southern Mississippi. We actually acquired digital measures back in 2012. But we have been slow to fully implement. That just recently occurred with us. A number of things have happened during that time that contributed to us being a slow implementation. We did have a previous administration many years ago, back when I first started as a faculty member at University of Southern Mississippi, who attempted to collect a variety of faculty activity information, and that really was met with resistance from the faculty at the time, given the nature of that particular administration. And so that really was one of the barriers that we had to get over as we implemented digital measures on our campus. We really did have a perfect storm of change from the time we bought digital measures to the time that we were able to actually sit back and say, you know, we are fully launched. We had a budget crisis, as many of you in this room did, during around this time period. We were suffering from declining enrollment from a variety of reasons that we won't get into today. And during this entire time, we had changes in leadership, everything from president, provost, deans, you name it. There were massive changes going on in our leadership structure as well. And not only that, we also, within the last couple of years, we're involved in a complete reorganization of the university through this time. So managing all of these pieces while we're trying to do an implementation of digital measures was challenging them, was challenging to say the least. So in 2017, when I took the role of a senior associate provost at the university, my boss, Provost Stephen Mosier, sat me down and said, you know, we've got this tool, we want to make use of it as we're reorganizing the university so that we actually have good information on the good things that our faculty are doing. And he said, I need this to be completely implemented, and he gave me a timeline of about 12 months. And so in 2017, we began that journey. We did a test pilot with faculty. We also acquired, during this journey, we acquired the workflow module with digital measures and piloted that as well. And we have seen an increasing number of faculty that are continually entering their information in digital measures. So faculty are seeing value in what we're doing. So this year, just to kind of give you a little more recent success, we have implemented CD templates that are standardized across the board for provost level grants. So we do have a number of grants at the provost level office for improvement of instruction and other things. And one of the things that we wanted to do was build templates that faculty could use so that they could put these applications together really quickly and get that information in without a whole lot of effort on their part. So we wanted them to see the power of digital measures and how it could really save them time and get things in the format that we needed. We've also undergone a web redesign here at the University of Southern Mississippi, and so we implemented web profiles from the information that is contained in digital measures. And the nice thing about this is when we went around and talked to faculty about this, this puts the control of that faculty web information in the faculty's hands. They can pick what presentations and publications and things appear on their web page without having to know how to program any kind of HTML or anything that's related to the web. They can use that information that they already have in Digital Measures to create their CVs, to create their annual reports, and now they can use that information to actually promote themselves on our website. So those are some of the things that we've been involved with lately that have led to faculty buy-in in this particular launch. So how did we do it? How did we go from basically a stale and stagnant implementation where we had purchased a product that we weren't really using very effectively to now where we have a completely launched platform. So we certainly started off by working with Digital Measures to get the fields titled with our naming conventions. We did not want our faculty to have to try to figure out what it meant in this platform versus what they have to do on their annual evaluations or any other kind of reporting that they do. So we worked really hard to try to get all that matched up. We piloted the platform with faculty and administrators in late 2017 after I started my position. We piloted that. I'll talk a little bit more about the pilot in just a moment, but we piloted that and invited feedback and actually made changes based on that feedback where it was appropriate to do so, so that faculty got buy-in to understand that yes, they are really wanting to develop an instrument that is useful for me as a faculty member. So it was very much so a faculty-focused pilot, even though we did have some administrators in the batch. We worked really hard to develop a statement on fair use and oversight. Again, that was one of the first things that I worked on as an associate provost, was I wanted them to understand, the faculty members that is, to understand that this was there to help them, that we weren't there to get them in their data collection, that this was going to be useful for everybody involved, and that there were things that were fair to use the information for, and there were things that were off limits. And so we developed that fair use statement to try to help calm any anxieties that might exist, given the fact that we had a number of faculty members that remember some of the work from a previous administration that caused a lot of suspicion. After that pilot was over and we developed that fair use statement, I recruited a Digital Measures advisory group of faculty, largely of faculty members from across the university, to provide feedback on anything when we had a question about where should we be moving with the instrument. I wanted faculty to know that we were reaching out to a group of faculty that they respected to get feedback so that we could act quickly and promptly and not unilaterally. So that was very important to us to have that Digital Measures advisory group. And we meet about once a semester. We don't meet a whole lot, but we meet about once a semester, and then we deal with things by email as needed. So if it's a small question that I think I should put before the advisory group, I'll just send out an email and wait for responses. And the faculty, I think, are very, very appreciative of the fact that we take things a little slow sometimes and get that feedback before we implement it. We provided in the instrument a feedback loop for faculty to request corrections to their pre-loaded information, especially their education data. At our institution, our education data that is in our, what we call SOAR, which is our PeopleSoft system, sometimes was inaccurate. And so we wanted to give the ability for faculty to actually take a peek at that information. And Digital Measures was the first opportunity for faculty to actually know what the faculty had in file for them in terms of their education data. And so we've got a number of requests back where people said, you don't have my most recent degree, or my degree was actually in history, not English, and you've got that wrong. And we've gone through and fixed those problems as a result of faculty feedback. We also had administration utilize the information in ways that save faculty time. We are now using Digital Measures for our annual evaluation process. We are using Digital Measures this upcoming year for our promotion and tenure process with workflow that Allison will talk a little bit about in a moment. And anytime we have sat down where we said, we need information from faculty, the first thing that I always tell people is, can we get that information from Digital Measures so that we're not bugging the faculty unnecessarily about submitting data over and over again. And so administrators, deans have been using this information for a variety of purposes that we can talk about if you want, but it has saved faculty time, and it has allowed us to make large strides in efficiencies across the board. And then 7, we actually meet faculty where they are. Allison and I go to where faculty are. We don't expect them to come to us for everything. Yes, we host some some workshops in centralized locations, and Allison will talk about that in just a moment. But if a group of faculty want us to come to them and talk about digital measures, we are always happy to schedule that. And so we meet them where we are. It's all about the faculty. It's about valuing faculty time. It's about promoting faculty accomplishments and achievements. It is all about faculty. And so we try to meet faculty where they are as frequently as we can. So let me talk a little bit about our pilot program that we implemented back in 2017 when I first took the job as Associate Provost. And I invited a minimum of 2 faculty members from each department that we had at the time. Now, we've undergone a reorganization. We now call departments disciplines within a school, but at that time we went through and I said I'm going to invite at least 2 faculty members from each department. And at the time that was 91 invitations that went out across the university. We are a multi-campus university. We have campuses on what we call the Gulf Coast region. We also have a campus in Hattiesburg. I wanted to make sure that we had representations from all of our campus locations. I made sure that all faculty ranks were included. We have the typical faculty ranks that you think of assistant, associate, and full professor, but we also have assistant teaching professor, associate teaching professor, full teaching professor, instructor. And so all of those individuals are actually full-time employees of the university, and we wanted to get their feedback to make sure that the instrument was going to satisfy their needs. So we weren't just focused on the full professors who had been here a long time. We looked at a wide variety of participants. I sat down one evening and put together a quick YouTube video showing the participants in the pilot how to use the system so that they could sit down at their own pace and kind of get a feel for the system without us having a big meeting with everybody having to come at a designated time. Again, meeting faculty where they are and making it as convenient for them as possible. And so that YouTube video was a pretty cut and dry video that just basically showed them the inner workings of the system so that they could get started. I sent after the pilot was over, we sent a survey to all the participants to receive feedback, and we paid attention to that feedback and made changes. I'll show you some of the data that I think is most important for that feedback and tell you a little bit about how we used it. And then at the end, everybody likes to be thanked for their service and what they do. And so I actually sat down and we put together thank you cards, and I signed each one of them for each participant so that they had a formal thank you from the provost office for sitting down and taking the time to provide that feedback and use the system and help us get it in a better place. I think it's very important to reach out and thank people for the efforts they do. So this is an example of what we did for the pilot. What you see on the left is it was the form letter that I put together that allowed me to send out the invitation to all 91 participants using mail merge. Everybody's pretty familiar with that. But what you'll see in that particular invitation is I gave them the why we were doing what we were doing. We were asking them to participate in a pilot, and I didn't stop there. I told them why digital measures was going to be important for our institution. I gave them the why. And I think it's always important to start with why when we ask people to do things. If they understand why it is that we're doing what we're doing, it helps eliminate some of the suspicion, and it also helps build some enthusiasm and buy-in. So it was a fairly lengthy letter. It's not the normal 2-sentence kind of thing. I wanted them to know that this was going to be taken seriously. And out of the 91 invitations, we had 54 participants that agreed to, and completed, I should say. There were more that agreed to, but agreed to and completed the pilot. And you can see the demographics of those particular 54 participants. We had a couple of instructors. We had a assistant teaching professor. At the time that this was being done, we didn't have any associate or full teaching professors because that was a newly implemented rank for us at the institution. But we also had a fairly even distribution across the board of assistant professor, associate professor, and full professor at the institution. You can see 18, 15, and 12. So that was a pretty healthy number of tenure-track faculty that agreed to participate. And of the faculty that agreed to participate, we had 5 who were from our Gulf Park campus on the coast, and 1 participant from our Stennis Space Center campus location on Stennis Space Center down in wherever it's located. So we were comfortable with 54 participants in the pilot. We were comfortable with the distribution of the ranks. We felt that it was valid enough for us to get some useful feedback. And so they went out, we gave them a couple of months to go out, use the instrument. They did send us questions. We answered those questions. They went in and played with it. Most people actually quite extensively. They uploaded a lot of information. They went in and ran reports. I asked them to go in and run reports for themselves, their CV templates and so on and so forth. An annual evaluation report. I wanted them to run all of those things with the information that they had entered for that short time period so that they could provide us with meaningful feedback. So after all of that was done, we submitted the survey. Allison actually composed the survey for me, and we ran this using the Qualtrics system that the university subscribes to. So this went out, it came back, it was completely anonymous unless they had actually mentioned their name and some feedback, which did happen, but it was an anonymous survey otherwise. And so we asked a number of questions, but I think these are the 6 that are the most important and relevant to how we move forward. And the first question that we asked them was about the data entry. Was it easy and straightforward? And 80% of the respondents said that it was, that they strongly agreed that it was a easy and straightforward process. Now, I believe kind of in the 80-20 rule with this, and so I said, you know, if I'm getting about 80% or better that agree or strongly agree, it's probably going to be okay. There's probably some area for tweaks and improvements, but it's probably not going to rise to the top of my list of things that I need to address early on. But if it's below 80%, it was something that I knew that we were going to need to address either in work orders with digital measures or quite frankly, our salesmanship to help ease any anxieties that might be there. So the second question was data preloaded into Activity Insight on their behalf was accurate. That was 71%. That was below my 80-20 rule. And so we actually started looking at the data that we were uploading and found areas in which there were deficiencies. And so we went back and worked with our folks in institutional research, the registrar's office, human resources, and found solutions to get that information more accurate on the front end so that we don't have to clean it up as much on the back end. The third question that we talked about in the survey was there an appropriate section to include all of the relevant academic accomplishments? 80% said either agreed or strongly agreed that there was some place that they could put all of their academic accomplishments. And so we were pretty happy with that for the start. The fourth question, the reports that they ran during the session accurately reflected their information. And we had a low return there of 63% that agreed or strongly agreed. And so that gave us an opportunity to reach out to chairs and directors of the various schools to fix what was going on in these annual evaluation reports. And so we put in a number of work requests with digital measures to update those reports so that they are more USM-centric, if you will, capturing the things that we need to be capturing for our institution. We did have a fairly low response, or positive response, I should say, for question 5, whereas that they believe that Activity Insight will save them time in preparing their annual evaluation reports. And so when we went out and did workshops and seminars, which Allison will talk about here in just a moment, we really hit on this hard so that faculty understood how this could save them time and effort in their annual evaluation reports. And I believe if we were to run this question again now, the vast majority of faculties would probably be at the 80% or better mark, because I've received, and this is anecdotal of course, but I have received a number of emails from chairs and directors that have told me, man, this has just made, this past year our annual evaluation process went so smoothly because we knew everything in the report was actually in the same place. It made it very easy for us to make comparisons and to actually give meaningful feedback to faculty as opposed to spending our time looking for things. We knew where it was, we knew what we needed to evaluate, and we could actually spend our time talking with faculty to actually give them the feedback that they needed to have a better year next year. And then the sixth question was that Activity Insight would be useful in developing tenure and promotion materials. And again, that one came in at 69%. We've spent a lot of time in those workshops talking about it, but this result also was one of the reasons, to be quite honest, why we decided to pursue purchasing of the workflow module. because a number of faculty indicated, well, if I've got to end up printing all this stuff out and compiling it anyway, I don't know that it's going to save me that much time. But with workflow, we can actually digitize the entire process. And so, we'll just have to wait and see how they feel about it after this coming year. But that is the reason why we decided to pursue the purchase of the workflow project or product. So I just want to talk a little bit about our annual usage trend. Again, we purchased this back in 2012. We didn't go back that far because it's pretty much so flatlined. But you can see in 2015, if you look at the color, you can see that there was essentially no activity in digital measures at that particular time. It was a stale and stagnant implementation. We had the product, we were paying for it, and we were getting no value out of it. In 2016, again, for all practical purposes, you can see that is pretty much so a stale period. There's a couple of little bumps in there where some activity was occurring, but not much. And then in 2017, it was pretty flat until we started the pilot. And that's where you see the initial bump up here in the, thank you, in the graph. And so that was after the pilot. And then in 2018, we knew we weren't perfect, but we actually did launch the entire product to the campus community. We made a concerted effort to go out and advertise the product. And Allison will talk about that in just a moment. But you can see in 2018, we started to have continuous and regular spikes in usage. And even though there are hills and valleys, I would argue that that's actually a good, healthy way to do this, because you're not going to have a high level all the time. There are periods of time during the year where faculty are going to spend time entering information into digital measures, and there are going to be times when they slow down. But nonetheless, we started to see real activity. And then for the first part of 2019, you can see that we've basically doubled that as well. And so right now, we're at about 4,000 to 6,000 entries, I believe, per month is kind of where we're at in terms of the digital measures data entry. We want to be a little higher than that. We know we still have to reach a number of faculty, but we believe that that's in a good spot. And so one of the ways that we got all of this annual usage is in terms of the things that we did in our seminars and workshops. And so I'll turn it over to Allison to talk a little bit about that.
Thanks, Doug. And one of the things that you have probably heard throughout all of this is that there are keywords: communication, communication, communication. That helped us with trust, and that helped us with buy-in. And there were two ways this whole launch could go. We could manage the change, or we could mangle it. And I think that what we did, and by the efforts Doug talked about, we really were able to be successful with that. And how did we do that? One of the things is that we made sure that we did quarterly or more frequently updates with branding. And you can see here we came up with a logo. We did check it out with digital measures to make sure it was okay. And we use that tagline frequently: to capture data once, use it infinitely. And that was one of the messages that people were getting. So how did we do that? We did workshops and trainings. Kind of our mantra was anytime, anywhere. And as you can see, we offered workshops through over 390 attendees. We offered over 30 workshops to date on 2 campuses. We have about 27 schools. 10 schools asked us specifically to come and present to all of their faculty. They had them all there. They were able to ask questions. And we were able to get a sense from the tone of the questions in the room of how do we need to change what we're saying, and what more information do we need to provide to faculty to see how this could be beneficial to their faculty and what they're doing. So to date, we hit over 200 faculty, and I have a feeling when we look at the data from the last part of the semester, we may have some more. And we made ourselves available for individual training sessions. We did some one-on-ones, and we did some small groups. Anytime, anywhere, we wanted to make sure that we were able to establish our credibility and to gain the trust of the faculty, to know that, as Doug said numerous times, this is a faculty-driven tool, and it's being used to respect faculty time. So how did we get campus buy-in, campus-wide buy-in in the second year? This started last year in the fall of 2018, where we had our Faculty First Week. It was the first time we had done a conference-type Faculty First Week for all faculty. And we were able to have digital measures be a prominent part of the schedule that was in there for both new faculty and returning faculty. We gave 6 workshops over 3 days, and we had about 70 in total attendance, which was a very good start out, and having those new faculty in there really felt the expectation and the culture that this is something that we do and this is something that we value. We also created the faculty celebration report. One of the reasons that we were selling digital measures was to say to our faculty, you were doing phenomenal things, but nobody knows the story. And how do we get that story? Well, we used to ask faculty, we would send out emails, but our response rate wasn't great. So with digital measures, we created this faculty celebration report that our university communications staff can go into, look and see what the research activity has been within that last month, see if there are any themes, or look and see what's happening in society, in politics, in any of the current events to see, do any of our faculty have relevant research, and if so, can they be one of the experts? And we were also able to have faculty see that the results and the stories that were being told were from what they put into digital measures. So if folks wanted to have their story told, they needed to have that information into digital measures. And again, that campus-wide buy-in was communication. We would answer the same question many times, many different ways, and we found that more and more people would listen to what we were saying, and people got the point that this was a tool for them. So again, the communication was key for that campus-wide buy-in, and having school directors talk about digital measures and the value that digital measures would bring was very helpful. So the workshops and trainings, what these allowed us to do, and again, it was time intensive, but it was intentional, is it allowed that we could show visible action. Faculty immediately could see how their information was used in real time. They would enter the data, then we could run a report in a session. They could see how easy it was and see how easy it was to correct information that was in there. That also was part of the feedback loop that Doug mentioned, that in real time in those workshops, we were both taking notes. What were the questions? What were the features people asked about? What do we need a little more time to explain so that we could adjust and recalibrate as we went along? It was also the professional development. This was something that faculty could put in right away. They were given the skills necessary to use the tools and resources. We didn't just say, here's a great tool for you. We gave them the professional development and the expectation and the skills to be able to use that. It also demonstrated the support of the senior leadership and the faculty leadership throughout there, through the participation and including digital measures in our overall strategy within student affairs. Doug mentioned we went through a reorganization, so it was a perfect time for us to talk about what we value as an institution, what we value that our faculty do, and digital measures was a way to capture that information and provide it crystal clear and provide information for the administration to use. Doug mentioned having the administration use that report and use that information really showed that there was value. It wasn't just an empty exercise, and it wasn't an exercise in just trying to find out, quote, what faculty are doing. And we also provided those real-time avenues. One of the things that I mentioned were that the specific data entry variables we were able to change to really enhance the creative activities in art and music and theater. And we also were able to add a syllabus report as part of the scheduled teaching. Oftentimes trying to get syllabus information from faculty and collecting all of those syllabi becomes an administrative nightmare. By providing the opportunity for faculty to upload, optionally at this point, into digital measures, a school director could run a digital measures report that would send a link out for all the course syllabi for a particular faculty or a particular semester. So not only we were making it user-friendly for the faculty, but we were also using it to create administrative efficiencies. And what we found, they were extremely effective in the implementation, and it was a campus culture. And that was what we were able to achieve through the efforts over the last 3 years, were a transformation in the campus culture about how we value faculty information, and to show faculty and the rest of the campus, these are important things that we are doing. We also found that there was no such thing as too much communication. Anyway, anytime, we would meet faculty where we were, and we used different avenues. We used newsletters, we used emails, we would use blurbs, we would put things in campus announcements. And we also created a website that provided a lot of the information available for people to see what changes have we been making and what resources were there. The other thing is that we found that our colleagues are naturally skeptical and question everything. That's what faculty are trained to do. Those questions helped us improve our process to better meet their needs. Again, this is for the faculty, not for the administration. And again, we found out that our faculty are doing amazing things. And we were able to begin to better tell the story of what our faculty are doing. And we are seeing some real benefits for it.
Good job.
Thanks. I'm like, bleh.
No, I liked your presentation. It was
Thank
good.
you. Had to get back into 31 minutes.
So we're about there.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks. This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun.
Yep.
And I like the fact that we can actually talk about, here's a visible cultural transformational change that we created on this campus. And it was just by doing things differently. We didn't have to have permission. We didn't do anything. We just did what was right. So, cool. This will be fun.
Yep. So
Thank you for letting me do this with you.
Yeah. So I need to smooth my part out.
Oh, I do too.
But, no, yours went well.
I don't remember what the hell I said, so I'll get the video from you. No, I think this will be good in asking the questions. And I'll work with Danielle to make sure our website's up to date. And no changes have been made to anything since we've been doing the transition. So I want to look and see where we are with that.
Okay.
Cool.
So we're about on target. We got a little bit of room if we needed to go over a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good.
No, and I think people.
So anything that you saw in mind that I forgot?
No, and I think that it touched on everything where people may not have thought about what are those partners that we need to have on campus in terms of creating this. No, I think it hit it, and it was concise. I mean, here's out of the box how you do a reboot. No, I think it was good, and one of the things that I hadn't really thought about, but was when you talked about the why, and doing that, and that really made a difference in this of taking the time to do the why and the what. So I think that was really important.
Good.
Cool. Thanks. This will be fun.
Yep. So our talk is Wednesday?
Wednesday at 10:30. So we're
Exactly a week out.
Yep. And so we're right after that opening session. So I don't know if I can email to find out, will there be technology in the room and our presentation will be preloaded, or do we bring our own, or put it
Yeah,
on the
if you'll reach
desktop?
out and see about that, that'd be helpful. I think they sent out the schedule, right?
They sent out the schedule. I haven't looked at the updated
I
one.
haven't either.
It's huge. I mean, it's absolutely huge.
And it starts, what time on Tuesday?
I think there's a reception like at 5 o'clock, so it's just like a reception meet and greet.
Okay.
And then I think you have dinner with the TK 20 people on Tuesday,
With the evaluation kit folks.
evaluation kit. So on Friday, there is a workshop that does a deep dive into creating custom reports. It's only about $50, so I wanted to go ahead and register for it.
We'll pay for it.
Okay. Because I think that'll also help kind of going out and being able to build some of those reports and thinking differently and doing the workshops on that, so that you don't have to do them if you don't want to.
No, I won't, yeah. So I have to be back here on campus on Friday.
No, I meant workshops like next year.
Oh, okay.
That I'll feel more comfortable on doing the creating reports. There is certification training on Tuesday all day, but I don't know that we need another certified person yet on
And actually, you can do that online. I've got the online certification.
that. Well, that's good. But no, I think that that'll be helpful on Friday.
Cool.
Yeah, workflow. Got to go in and change some stuff on the P&T.
Well, yesterday, Katie, so I was on the graduation call for business,
Okay,
for Watermark, digital measure stuff. And Katie is trying to find a time for us to, and I told her to schedule with us about an hour
while we're there.
while we're there. And so
Yeah.
she's gonna try to find a time. I haven't heard back from her yet, but we'll know soon when they wanna have a
Okay.
client success manager meeting. So
Yeah.
they're really good about doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, and they were really helpful in